Good evening, everyone. How you doing? Guess what? It's time for the Ruby Girl Talk tonight. Tonight, I know you're so surprised. I have a gentleman here. I know you always used to seeing the ladies, but I switched it up tonight. I have Dr. Terry Spain. When I tell you, I am so excited that he's on the show. He is a man of influence. He is a man of change, and he's a man of mentorship. When I tell you he's the whole package, he's doing everything that he can, using every gifts. I think you took some of my gifts that I ain't using also, Dr. Terry, and you using them also. But anyway, hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to the Ruby Girl Talk. And before I introduce Dr. Terry Spain, Dr. Terry, I want you to go on my Facebook page, find this video and share it to your Facebook page. And that way, your people can also see this video live. They don't have to be trying to find my name. They don't have to be typing it in all wrong, everything like that. So while you do that, I want to introduce everybody to the Ruby Girl. So Ruby Girl comes from Proverbs 31 and 10. Who can find a virtuous woman for her price is far above the price of a ruby? So, ladies, just for the ladies, I'm sorry, Dr. Terry, just for the ladies only, that makes you rare, virtuous, and valuable. And so, ladies, you can go to rubygirl.net and you can connect with me. You can get my ebook, you can get a t-shirt. I always say this is the Ruby Girl uniform. This makes you an official Ruby Girl because you're out there representing the Proverbs 31 woman. And so, also, if you didn't know, I'm having an event September the 30th at my house in my backyard. It's called the Ruby Girl Experience. So, if you would like to be a part of it, if you live in Detroit, I want you to put in the comments, I want to be a part of the Ruby Girl Experience. So I know everybody's not on the live, everybody's not punctual. Some of y'all gonna be here at 8:34. So I'm gonna repeat it again. But September the 30th, I am having the Ruby Girl Experience and it's gonna be awesome. So Dr. Terry, if you anywhere near Detroit, you can fly in, you can drop in.
I was I
But
was I was gonna ask if it was just an all girls thing or can I be a guest or something?
it is, but we will invite you in. So let's get to the introduction. So, Dr. Terry, could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
I sure will. And first of all, I want to thank you, Dr. Dodds, for inviting me on your show. So my name is Terry Spain. I'm originally from Conway, South Carolina. It's a small town right outside of Myrtle Beach. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a retired U.S. Navy chief, author, and sports commentator, and kind of a jack of all trades, if you will.
A true entrepreneur.
Most definitely.
So, give us your contact information. I like it in the beginning.
Okay. So there's a couple ways you can reach me, but my website is terryspainconsulting.com. And you can also, I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on all social media platforms. For Instagram is Terry Spain 21. And for Facebook, it's my first and last name, Terry Spain. Spain, just like the country, Spain.
That's a good way of doing it, a good play on your name. So,
Okay.
y'all, let's get into this conversation with Dr. Terry. So, for those that's out there watching, you know what you need to do, and it's free, completely free. There is a share button. For those that do not know this, there's a share button and it's free. You press the share button, and guess what? So many other people that's on your page can also watch the Ruby Girl talk too. We want as many people as possible to see this interview because the one thing about Dr. Terry is that he mentors young men and men up to 40 and, whoever needs to be mentored. And so this is very important because a lot of our men out here need a mentor. They need a little guidance because a lot of them grow up without men, that manly presence in their life. Their father might not be in their life, or the men that are might not be good examples. So what Terry is doing is very important to our young men that's out there. So, Dr. Terry, as you said, you're a jack of all trades. We know
Mhm.
that you are an author. We know that you're a speaker, sports commentary. But I want to talk about just right quick. about you being a sports commentator, because I found that to be very interesting. I've never personally met a I'm sorry, a sports commentator before. And so I was just honored when you said that. And y'all don't know, we met actually, well, we were in the same room in June, and I probably saw him. We probably passed each other. I might have helped you out because I was helping the graduates or whatever, but we connected on Facebook, and I'm so glad that he reached out to me. So let's get started tonight, because I was just giving a few people just a few minutes to get in. You know, people always run late. You know, they might
Definitely,
be on
most
their way
definitely.
to Facebook, and they fingers tripped up, then they went to Instagram. So tell us about your journey to become a sports commentator and a motivational speaker. I'm a throw that part in there
We're gonna
because
throw the whole thing in there,
yeah,
right?
because it's both
Okay.
speaking. You know, I'm kind of grouping some stuff together.
Right, right. Yeah, for me, like I mentioned to you before, I did 21 years in the Navy, but my job in the Navy, I was a mass communication specialist, which is pretty much like a public affairs, public relations type of job. But I was huge into sports. Sports has always been a key part of my life, so I always wanted to continue to be involved in sports, whether it's playing sports or whether it's commentating. So being that I was doing broadcast journalism, things of that nature in the military, I never forget. I got my first start, and this is how my sports commentary actually came into play. I haven't shared this with many people, but in 1999, my editor couldn't make the Senior Bowl, which is held in Mobile, Alabama. I was stationed in Pensacola, Florida at the time, and my editor couldn't make it to this event. And so he knew that I love sports, and he was like, "Hey, Spain, I know you love sports, and I can't make it. How do you feel about covering the Senior Bowl for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course. This is what I wanted." And so actually, honestly, that's how I got started in doing sports, and this anything in the sports media realm was my first thing that I really covered was the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. And I got my itch from doing that. And I just found it fascinating, just because I get to be around the sport, whether it was football or basketball. And I continue to do that. I made network and contacts with people within the sports arena after doing that. And I started saying to myself, like, I could do this, because this is what I do in the Navy. So just got to tie it into a sports realm. But I know a lot about sports. So I started doing it. So for over the last 20 plus years, I've been doing it, even though it wasn't at a grand scale at certain times, but now, leading up to now, I do that for a local broadcasting area here in Florida, which also includes for me broadcasting with the XFL, and do some stuff with ACC basketball, ACC football, and also so I have opportunity to do some stuff with some other professional realms and doing some not just with sports, but doing some local broadcasting as well. I started doing high school football broadcasting. This is my first year of doing high school football, and I'm very excited about that. But tying that all into um, me speaking and my speaking opportunities, you have to prepare to be a speaker. And it's the same, it kind of goes hand in hand with being a speaker and being a sports commentator. You have to do research, you have to study, you have to learn different things, you have to ask different questions. And so by me being a broadcaster and a sports commentator, along with being a motivational speaker, I have to practice. And that's the biggest thing. And I love to talk, so that's one of the good things about me. I love to talk, so it works hand in hand, and I think this is a great profession for me. Is being I'm a professional speaker along as with a sports commentator as well.
I love that you said you love to talk. Some people love to talk, but they don't have conversation.
Right.
Meaning that they talk and your mind is like, oh, when they gonna be quiet. But the whole time that I have spoken to you, you had good conversation. I love your voice. I have to tell you, I can see why you were a sports commentator, because you can tell that when you talk about the game, your tone and everything captures the attention of those that are listening. So you got the perfect job. It's made for you. And it's so funny how you talked about that the guy asked you to replace him. That's kind
Yes.
of what happened to Les Brown when he got into radio. Did you ever hear his story?
Yeah, I heard portions of his story. So yeah, you're right. That's very similar.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Les Brown, he was working at a radio station. At first, I know he was doing it for free. And so the DJ got drunk. He was drunk and he was spinning records. And so the owner called and he said, "Look, the DJ is drunk." He said, "Can you just go in there and, just put the records on?" He was like, So he went in there and he started, "This is your Papa playing, Papa this and all that." And that's how he ended up into radio. So you never know where opportunity would come. But guess what? Dr. Terry was ready.
Yes,
Just like
indeed.
Les Brown was ready. You didn't have to prepare anything. You was going for it. You was like, okay, you didn't have to go study. You didn't have to clear your throat. You was just ready for it. And so you teach us, what you're teaching us is always be ready for when the door opens.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
Always be prepared for the door to open. God will open the door, but he leaves the preparation on us.
I definitely agree with that.
That was some revelation right there, wasn't it? No. Okay. So let's talk about the sports commentator again because I like that. You have commentated on countless sports events. How do you see the connection between sports and personal development, particularly for young men, because you like to mentor young men?
Yeah, so it definitely goes hand in hand. A lot of people don't know that. Even the young men that don't like sports, right? You can still tie preparation into that. So I always mention to young men that if I went on air and I just started jibber jabbering about different things, that's probably gonna be one of the last times I get on air. So I tell them and I stress the importance of knowing your audience. I stress the importance to them of preparation, planning, executing and going out and actually just doing your homework. That takes a lot of time. I tell people one of the biggest difference between, and I'm not saying I'm Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan and the average basketball player is practice. And so Michael Jordan practiced even during the times that he suffered defeats. He still he still practiced and worked on his craft. And now he's arguably one of the best or the best NBA player that we've ever seen in our lifetime. And so for me, I just try to show these young men and tell these young men that, hey, first of all, you're going to encounter things that you may or may not like to do. You may encounter things that doesn't work out in your favor, but that doesn't define you. That shouldn't stunt your growth. You should continue to look and move forward. And so I try to motivate them in that aspect, show them that okay, if plan A doesn't work, what about plan B and C? Don't forget about B and C because those probably what that didn't work out for you actually probably worked out for you. And I had to explain to them the meaning of that because you may have your heart set on a particular thing that you want to do in life, but that's not what God had in store for you. So that didn't work out for you. I remember my one of my closest friends told me, he said, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And so I was like, that's true. Because sometimes I got caught up into that where I would have all these plans for me, but never really consulted God about it. And then it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. But I started noticing, even when I got older and much wiser, is that when I included God in the things that I wanted, then it worked out. So, and I try to encourage these young men to follow similar paths. They don't have to follow the same path as myself, but follow things and follow their passion in their heart.
Very good advice. That's not only good advice for young men, that's good advice for a person, period. Because we can plan out something, but sometimes things that happen to put us on the right path. Because I think about people that get cancer and then that becomes their passion
Hmm.
if they probably never got past. Think about it. Most people don't really have a passion for cancer research or cancer, events until somebody in their family or them, and then they have a passion for it. So you never know how the path that God is going to take you. And you're right, we make out our plans and everything, and then we do get a little angry, a little disappointed when it don't turn out like we think, but
Correct.
God says
Correct.
all things work together for the good.
Good.
Even when we
Yeah.
screw up, God will still work it out for the good. I think about I had owned a house And you know how God tell you about somebody, and he told me these people basically weren't going to pay me. He likened them to somebody else I know that was terrible tenants. But I overrode it. I was like, I just want to get out this house. And so I messed up. And I was too scared to go to God and ask him for help because I did it. I was like,
Yeah.
God, I did this. I can't ask you to clean up my mess. But when I finally humble myself and said, Lord, I did this. Will you help me? He gave me a strategy to get out of that house. And because of the connection to them, I was able to connect to the bank for my house and found out they took care of the closing costs for your house. I
Oh,
did
wow.
not know that. So
Yeah.
yes, God took my mess and he cleaned it up, put a little blood on it, and washed
Okay.
it off, made it
Okay.
white as snow.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah.
yes. So I thank you for that advice that you've given these young men, because a lot of young men that do sports, that's all they focus on. And so if they have an injury or it doesn't work out, they don't know what to do with their life. But
Exactly.
you're right. You need a plan A and a plan B, because if it don't work out in sports, you become a sports commentator or maybe a coach or something like that. But they sometimes just be so focused because their
Yeah.
family have them focused like that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. There's a lot of pressure on some of these young men because some of these young men are are put so high up because they're going to feed the family. So they can't, disappoint, and they have to go all out. So that's a lot of pressure, not only for young men, that's a lot of pressure for men in general or people or anybody in general. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. You're
yeah,
right, because sometimes the family rides the whole family legacy on this one person making it in sports and not knowing the pressure that they putting on. They just think they like sports, so this is what they're going to do. But it's a pressure, because it's like, if I fail my whole family.
family.
I
Yeah,
really disappoint them.
yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Give them that great advice. So we're going to take a 60-second break. And so during this break, I'm gonna give you 60 seconds. You can say whatever you want to, talk about whatever you want, but make sure you put your business information. So I'm gonna look on Facebook, see if anybody said anything to us or they talking about us. But and also share the video to my other page. So go ahead.
Okay. So you said I could talk about anything?
You got 60 seconds.
All right, 60 seconds. Going in 60 seconds. Well, now what we were talking about, when you mentioned before about having an extra plan, one of the things that I try to ask these young men is, like you mentioned before, if that doesn't work out, what's next? So I try to encourage them to not only be a football player. You ever thought about being the owner? Have you ever thought about being a sports agent? Because sports agents make a lot of money. When those athletes sign that contract, those agents are there with their hands out. So, just encouraging them and showing them different paths. And I also try to promote the military to a lot of these young men who can actually go in the military. I do that same thing because um, the military for me, and I know it's different experiences for everybody else, but the military for me worked out tremendously. And so, and these are some of the main reasons why I'm here today. This is one of the reasons why I was able to do the sports commentary, because I was in the military and I was filling in for my supervisor at the time. So yeah,
Okay. And your contact information?
TerrySpainConsulting.com.
Mhm.
Once again, I'll say it again, TerrySpainConsulting.com. Or you can look me up on Instagram, Terry Spain 21, or you can look me up on LinkedIn under Terry Spain.
Good. Thank
I'm
you.
not I'm not hard to find.
You don't want us to contact you? You never know. We might have a young man for you to mentor, or somebody might want to invite you for speaking engagement. He does do speaking engagement. I'm telling you, people are always looking for male speakers that
Correct.
really impact. It is very rare. And so for someone like you with your experience and intensive knowledge and your professionalism, and like and your not especially your wisdom,
Mhm.
Would be a perfect speaker for a men's event, young boys camp, summit, anything like that. But we're gonna get more into what Terry is gonna be doing. So this is the second half of the show. And so during the second half of the show, we switched it up. We talked about him being a motivational speaker and a sports commentary, how he ended up being a sports commentary just because his supervisor wasn't able to speak at an event. He stepped in, and from there that was the beginning of his story and the beginning of his career. So what I love is he told me about his childhood. And one of the unique things about his childhood, y'all would never guess this, he lived in Italy. So tell us about your upbringing. That's what I'm really curious about. And I know everybody's like, how was this young man raised? Was he raised in the hood? Nope, he was raised in Italy. So how did growing up in Italy influence your perspective on life? And did your childhood plant a seed of mentorship for you, plant a seed for you to mentor young boys?
Okay, so being that I grew up in Italy, I like to say buonasera. That means good evening in Italian. But but yeah, I did. I grew up in Italy from when I was roughly. We moved to Italy from South Carolina when I was 12 years old. My dad was in the Marine Corps, so my parents and my sisters and I and my nephew we moved to Italy. My dad got stationed in Italy because I said he was in the Marine Corps, and that's probably one of the biggest things, one of the most impactful things that happened to me in my childhood was picking up a young man that's from South Carolina and moving him to Italy where he didn't speak Italian. There were not all these apps and all these different things that we have now in today's society to kind of help you speak the language. You had to do it old school, read it and actually look it up or just pick it up by ear. But I'm gonna tell you right now, the cultural competency and everything that I learned by living in Italy and understanding the traditions of the Italian culture, I was equally impressed. I played basketball while I was over there as well, so that kind of helped out, just learning the language and things of that nature. But growing up overseas for 3.5, 4 years, um, that was great. I got the opportunity to travel and see the world, living in Italy and in Europe. I mean, going to see Europe, but I also had the opportunity to make some really great friends that I'm still friends with to this day. And some of us were military dependents, military brats is what you call us. But we have a unique bond. It's like a closeness that we have, and we still have class reunions. Matter of fact, we're going to have a class reunion next year, and we usually have about 100, anywhere from 100 to 300 people that usually show up to our class reunions. And it's just us that grew up overseas and grew up in Italy and having that common bond. But that really prepared me because I did have to grow up a little bit faster because I was moving to a foreign country, and just learning the aspects of people's religion, the aspects of people's language, the way they grew up, their socialization process. Some of it was a lot different than growing up growing up in the United States. But when I came back to the United States, I was even more deadly because I had the Italian culture and I had the American culture, and that really helped me out a lot.
That's amazing. That's an amazing childhood. So while you were in Italy, like you said, your class reunion is 100 and sometimes 300 people. I'm like, our class reunions don't even be 60 people. I'm like, how do you get all those people? But it seems like growing up with your father being a Marine, so you kind of knew about the
Yeah,
services and everything like that. Like you said, being a what'd you say, Army brat? Did you say Army? Because he's Marine.
Marine
Marine.
brat. Yeah, yeah,
Marine brat. So I
yeah.
know Marines are tough. So was your
Very,
father tough on you?
very, very tough. I got four sisters, right? And so he had to be tough. And I get it. At that time I didn't get it. You know how it is as a kid. You don't see what you see now. But his strictness and his sternness is really what shaped me into the person that I am today. From holding me accountable, even when I was doing household chores in the house, he made sure he inspected what I did and what my siblings did. And if it wasn't done right, we had to do it again. So, I hated that portion of it growing up as a kid, but now I really appreciate it because that really made me the person that I am.
It's good that you say that because there's a lot of soft parenting
Hmm.
out there. And I'm not a parent, but I can see the effects of the soft parenting versus how we were raised, because they were not giving us no breaks whatsoever. Kids did not have rights, kids did not have a voice, none of that. And at the time, I thought it was really hard. I thought it was really unfair. But I noticed that I'm a well-adjusted individual. I know how to be polite to people. I know how to adjust to be professional. I know
Right.
how, if I'm in the club, I don't club, but when I was, I knew to go to work and be professional. And then I knew to be in the clubs. And it's funny, when people would see me in the clubs, they were like, you're totally different than when I know you at work or whatever. Yes, because I'm in the club. But it
Yeah.
seems like the young people don't know how to adjust. They just have
Right.
one mode, one everything. And our
Yeah.
parents was hard on us, but you know what? They were trying to instill in us morals, God, even though we might have hated going to church, because I
Yeah.
know I despised them Easter speeches. Oh my goodness, I almost had a nervous breakdown every Easter.
Oh
I would be
man.
up there sweating buckets, and you be like, God is good, Easter egg rolled on the ground, and you just like mechanically said it, just like, okay, I'm done. Let me go sit down. But
Yeah.
you know what? That taught us public speaking. That
Yeah.
taught us how to do things that we did not want to do. But it's
Yeah.
a lot of things. I'm so glad that my childhood was not soft parenting, that
Yeah.
they were really working on developing our character. So even Dr. Terry, I can see that in you. Like you said, you appreciate it now. Kids don't appreciate it. You can be nice to them, you could be hard to them or whatever. It's just in them. That's their nature. But it's funny how you don't have to teach a child to be bad. They already know how to do that. We're actually
Right.
teaching them how to be a better person. Isn't that
Yeah.
something?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, and I know each generation is different. I had this conversation with my daughter the other day about, because she's 24, about her generation and my generation and how we view their generation and things. And so, I told her this is the first time ever in history that 5 generations are working together in the workplace. So just imagine that. You have some people that are 60 and 70 years old. They're working with somebody that's 22. And so that's a big age gap. And so it's a big adjustment. So I definitely, like I said, we've had some interesting conversations with that, in particular with being in the military, having these young service members come in, and here I am, have 15, 16, 17, 18 years already under my belt. And you're looking like, who's these kids? You know what I mean? So it's definitely adjustment. They could teach us stuff and we could teach them stuff. So as long as we learn that we can work together and learn from each other, I think that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah, I think it's always been barriers when it came to age. I think every generation before, I think the new generation is just horrible because they just thought we were
Yeah,
like horrible. I think we changed a lot of things because I think a lot of us grew up and said, well, we're not going to treat our kids like
this
we were
way.
treated, right, not
Right, right.
understanding it needed to be that way. And then all of a sudden we was like, oops, now we saw why our parents was like they are. And I think that it was our generation that kind of, I wouldn't say messed up, but changed the game plan
Yeah,
because like I said, when I was growing up, we feared adults. We were terrified of every single adult. These kids don't fear nothing, fear
yeah,
anything. They don't
yeah,
fear death. They don't fear anything. They're just fearless. And I
yeah,
was like, and here we are. We had God implanted in us. And so because I knew God, I would stop at some things. I'd be like, oh, I can't do that because I
yeah.
know that's not right. But these kids push the limits. And it is different working with them because I remember I knew I was old when we had this. I was the only one left in my department. We hired these 3 new people. And I was like, yeah, you do the calculator. We don't know how to do the calculator. I was like, "What?"
Right,
And I
right.
couldn't believe it. I was like, "Well, how do y'all add? We do Excel." I was like, "Okay, I get that, but this is paper we dealing with, so we need a tab on this." So that was really weird. So So it had to be awesome to grow up in Italy. That was an awesome experience. Nice to put
Yeah,
on your speaking resume too.
yeah.
So you had a diverse and fascinating journey from serving in the Navy to becoming a mentor and an author. Could you share a pivotal moment or experience that inspired you to embark on your current path as a mentor and an author of Hey Young Man? Let's talk about that book.
All right, all right. So there's two things. The title of the book, Hey Young Man, I mention to people all the time because they ask me, it's like, why did you come up with that title? Or how did you come up with that title? And I told them, I said, hey, you ever encountered an older man and they wanted to get your attention to give you some knowledge? And they'd be like, hey, young man, come here, let me talk to you. And so they were like, yeah, 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 I do that. So that's why I wrote that book, because when you see the title, Hey Young Man, that's going to grab your attention, because you know when they call you over, they're going to give you some wisdom. And so in this book is wisdom. And I also empowered a couple of other people that I am very cool with, and I knew that they would be able to add some substance to the book. So I have a couple other gentlemen in that book that provide some of their expertise as well. But I tell people and I share this story that my grandfather could not read or write, but but he had the decency enough to respect people, and he earned the respect from a lot of people where I grew up in South Carolina, because at that time, you know, you had to be out on the farm, or you had to be out in the field or whatever. My grandfather had doing his generation, so he couldn't read or write. But I found it fascinating to me. I watched him ever since he died when I was about 16. But up until then, like even after we left to go to Italy, I came back. You know, I saw him and he was functioning. You know, he was driving a car. He was doing all these different things. Everybody knew Mr. Spain, and they knew the respect that they had to give to him. And I saw and I listened to some of the things that he would tell me as a kid, and I never forgot those things, right? And one of the most pivotal things that really inspired me to write this book was on July 16th, 1994. I almost died. I had a ruptured appendix, and my stomach exploded, and I was in the hospital for a whole entire month. And I was going into my senior year in high school, and I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to go to college to play basketball. I wanted to do all these different things. But that day, when my stomach exploded, after leaving the basketball court, mind you, um, that changed my life forever. And so I used to be ashamed of talking about it, because I had a scar, you know, and everything on my stomach, and it was just a rough time for me during that time. But I share that story, and I share that with a lot of other people. And when I'm speaking to young men who have these barriers in their way, I tell them that story that happened to me, and I can see how honed in they are when I talk about when I lost 30 plus pounds and I had to learn how to walk all over again. I had to eat through tubes through my neck because I couldn't eat hard food at the time. You know what I mean? I had to heal, and it took me 6 or 7 months to actually physically heal from a ruptured appendix, because a lot of people died from that back in the day. But modern medicine and things of that nature, that was able to save me. But so when I share that story with them, and I tell them that even though I had that barrier in my life at 17, now look at me now at 46 years old, and I've achieved everything I all ever wanted to do in my life. I was able to achieve that because I stayed focused. Of course, there were roadblocks. Of course, there were turns and twists and all these different things that kind of deter you from doing what you want to do. But one of the things that I did stay true to was believing in God, but also staying the course, writing my goals down. Like I would write my goals down, even at like 15, 16, 17-year old, I would write my goals down. And my mom and my dad brought this envelope to me. I never forget it. And it had all of my little achievements and stuff that you would have like a second and third grade. They kept a lot of that stuff. My parents remember and talked about how I used to write my goals and put them on my bed and everything, and all the stuff that I wanted to achieve in life. And that motivated me. And I kind of tell and I challenge these young men and women to write your goals down and put them in locations where you have to see every day, whether it's your bathroom where you got to brush your teeth, whether it's on your bedpost where you know you got to go to sleep. You challenge yourself, and any time that you have the opportunity to achieve any of those goals, you check it off. And I guarantee you, it's like a weight lifted off your shoulder when you can check off one of those goals and you keep going and you check out all your goals. I've been living by that for over 30 years, and it's been working for me. And I'm telling you right now, that's a motivational tool that I use to motivate these young men to say, hey, you're going to be distracted. You're going to have roadblocks. You're going to fall into pits sometimes. But it's people like me. It's books that I wrote. This Hey Young Man. You take a look at those things. And in that book, it has challenging questions in there. You take a look at these things, and I guarantee you, you will find your true course.
That's good. I'm glad you're still here.
Thank you.
Like you
Thank you. I
said, I
appreciate
haven't
that.
heard anybody that had a ruptured appendix and lived, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
God definitely had a plan for you and a testimony to go with that plan.
Yes,
Mm.
indeed. Yes, indeed.
So tell us a little bit about maybe something that's in the book. Hey, young man, do you tell your life story in the book?
I tell bits and pieces of it. I had another book that I wrote called Just Lead. That was my very first book. And in that book, I shared the story about my ruptured appendix. But one of the things that I share in the book, and it's kind of comical, but it's shocking to a lot of people, in particular the young men. I try to teach these young men how to do life skills, myself and a couple of the other brothers that I'm associated with. And one of the things that we try to do when I teach this life skills class, I used to teach at the Juvenile Detention Center, is that we would teach these young men how to tie a tie, because that's very important to learn how to tie a tie. Um, because when you have to go to an interview and they require you to wear a suit and you can't tie a tie, then you're going to be kind of stuck. But I never forget this day. I showed this young man how to tie a tie, and he broke down in tears as he said, "You know what, Mr. Spain, I feel like I can conquer the world." So that's when I knew that something as simple as learning how to tie a tie is I needed to be there for that, right? Because honestly, I did not want to come that day because it was Thursday night football. I'm not going to lie to you, and something kept saying, "No, you need to go." So I went, and and that day is when that happened. But one of the things that I share in the book that I started sharing with these young men that they could not believe. I told them I didn't learn how to tie a tie until I was 40 years old,
Wow.
and I learned off of YouTube. My dad used to try to teach me how to tie a tie. And I used to always say, "Oh, don't worry about it, you tie them," right? So I used to have my dad tie all of my ties. And, I keep them nice and neat, so I won't have to worry about trying to retie it. So I brought all my ties there and he tied them all for me, right? And I never forget, I had to go to an event and which required me to have a different tie. And I couldn't go to South Carolina because that's where my parents live at. Because I live in Florida. And I needed to tie this tie. And I didn't want to ask any of my friends because I didn't want nobody, be like, "Man, you don't know how to tie a tie." So I went on YouTube, and it took me less than 5 minutes to learn how to tie a tie. And when I tell you, it felt like I won the Super Bowl tying this tie. And so now I wrote that in my book that I learned how to tie a tie when I was 40, and I explained to them how I learned. These young men cannot believe that. They were like, "What? You were 40 years old when you learned?" So that's a little snippet that I put in the book that a lot of people find fascinating.
So how do we get your book?
So there's a couple ways. You can go on my website, which is terryspainconsulting.com. If you go on there, you'll be able to see because once you open up the URL, my book is at the front, and you click on that and you can order from there. And I also will sign it and and write a personal message in there for you. And I also have I give out little gifts for my book. I don't usually tell people what they are because I give different gifts to different people. But I give out gifts if you go to my website and order it. But you can also go on Amazon to order it. And you can go that option too. But I really push people to go to my website because if you go to the website, I want to get more personable with you and to be able to sign the book.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Sound like a very good book. So if you know a young man out there that love to read, I need to start reading. It is a great book to get him. I love the title, Hey Young Man. You're right. I think
Yeah.
about it. Them older men, hey young man, come here. Let me
Yeah.
talk to you, you know? And it's something about that that makes it personable
Yeah.
and kind of grab your attention, you know. It's
Yeah.
very good. I love it. I love it. I love it. So also, you got a documentary coming up, but I do
Yeah.
want to point this out. He's met President Obama. Yep, I've been
Yeah.
on your website. He's received the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award, which is for volunteering. How many hours is it? I think. Wait a minute, I should know. I got it too. But how many
I
hours is it? I just
think it
remember.
may be maybe 2 or 3 thousand or something like that. Could
Yeah,
be a
two
little
or
bit more.
three
Yeah, yeah,
thousand
yeah.
hours. Okay, so he's the recipient of that, and then a whole bunch of other stuff. So you have to really go on this website to see how amazing. So at the end, when he gives this 2 minute chat, I'm gonna go on his website. So make sure y'all pay attention because I'm gonna show some of his accomplishments and some of the things that he's did. Look, he's not a small fish in the pond. We're dealing with a shark, a whale shark right here. Okay, so you got an upcoming documentary coming up. Could you provide a sneak peek into the documentary's theme and what our viewers can expect to take away from it?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm glad you asked that. I'm excited about this documentary. So I put like a 35 or 45 second trailer out already on Facebook and all my social
Oh,
media platforms. But this documentary is about. I was asked to come out to do the first ever Kenyan's Young Men Empowerment Summit in Eldoret, Kenya. And from that empowerment summit, we had roughly about 200 young men who we showed these different life skills to. We showed them how to tie ties. We gave them, different avenues and pathways that they can use to kind of motivate them over there. But also, we documented. I wanted to get this documented, and so I hired someone over there in Kenya. I wanted to empower us, so I empowered and hired a gentleman that's over there that his name is David that did an outstanding job documenting every move over in Kenya. And I've submitted to some film festivals, which we've been the semifinalists now for the IndieX Film Festival for our documentary. So I'm excited about that. And I'm going to be releasing it pretty soon on my YouTube page as well, so people can have an opportunity. It's about 59 minutes long, but it gives you the day-to-day operations as what we did over there, because we had a lot of people who supported us, not just just by their words, but they supported us by with their finances as well for us to go over to Kenya to do this Young Men Empowerment Summit. So I wanted to show them what they sponsored, what they all the stuff that they done for us, and see what we did with and how we empowered these young men and women, because the women got a little jealous that we were doing this Young Men Empowerment Summit. So we actually kind of involved the women as well. So there was a portion of it for women, and some of the local women from that area did that portion. And then the five gentlemen that I had come with me, we handled the rest of the empowerment summit. So it was a powerful thing, and we're going to do this on a continuous basis. It's not just the first time. This is going to be a yearly thing, is what I envisioned. This was a vision that was given to me by God through that book, Hey Young Man. And so that book, Hey Young Man, is the reason why we were able to do that Kenyan Young Men Empowerment Summit.
so I've been really listening, picking up on some things. Writing down your goals and writing your vision is what has kept you on track.
Most definitely.
Because I mean, it's biblical. Now we understand why
Mhm.
God said, write the vision. Because when it's in your head, it can change, you can forget it. But it's something about seeing something that's part of faith. That helps build up your faith. And it's also a reminder. Some people say you're supposed to recite your goal or your vision in the morning and also in the evening before you go to bed, so that it's always resting on your mind. Because I do believe what you focus on is what happened, because I do garage sales, right? So
Okay.
I will be like, I need to find this when I go to the garage sale, and I promise you, I will find it. And it won't be hard. I'm like, oh, one of my neighbors asked me one day. She said, "Oh, you going to the garage sale?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "I need a cabinet, filing cabinet." The first garage sale I went to was like, boom, there it is. And it's
Right
like,
there.
yeah, it's like sometimes it just really like some days I go to garage sales and I get so much stuff that I want, I get scared and go home because I was like, this is unbelievable. This is happening just too good. But sometimes that's how it is in life. And I think that if we don't have our goals written down, if we don't have our vision before us, we're all over the place. And even as an entrepreneur, we're going to be in different places, but it connects. But without that vision, without that goal, it's a disconnect there. Like
Right.
I started having a vision class just I think last month with Sean Fair, and it has given me so much clarity. It was like I don't know what to do. I was feeling a little lost. I was
Right.
moving along, but I was like stumbling. This gave me a clear vision of where I'm gonna end up. So now I know what to reject and what to accept. So have you found that to be true for you too?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, one of the things that I started doing that you sometimes you got to do things out your norm, right? And one of the things I started doing out of my norm is I meditate. Like I never meditated in my life. It was something that was introduced to me by one of my friends, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. And I started meditating, but that actually gives me a clear mind, and so I like doing that, and that's been pointing me in the right direction. And then I also feed off of other people. Like I have certain people that I go to that I can ask for certain things, right? Like advice or something of that nature. And then some days, and believe it or not, and a lot of people, you know, won't believe this, but sometimes I sit in a quiet room and I just plan out in my head like all the stuff that I want to do. And I have my phone where I do my notes, and I would write down all the stuff in my notes, the stuff in that quiet room. I would sit in a room for like 30 minutes to an hour, and I'll just sit there, no TV, no nothing. It could be at the height of football or basketball season, but I would just sit in the room, just become one with myself, and then just go. And I noticed that I work better that way because the stuff that I sit in a room and meditate on, those things that I really excel. Like I sat in a room and meditated and excel about the Kenyan Young Men Empowerment Summit and Hey Young Man, and both of those things have been doing wonders for myself and other people. The one of the biggest things that I'm excited about with that is I had an opportunity to impact, or um I wouldn't say impact. I had one of the opportunities to empower other men that didn't have the same platform that I had.
Mm,
And that's what
that's
it's all about. When you can have other people excel and not just you, and you see that they appreciate what you've done for them, that makes it even better.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You are making an impact in the kingdom of God. But the book Think and Grow Rich, it talks about that sitting. And he said, oh no, Earl Nightingale. This is the
Okay.
first really motivational speaker I really got into was him. And he was talking about how if you get up early in the morning and you sit and just meditate, that you'll get so many he said you'll get your $1 million idea or whatever like that.
Yes.
That's one thing that Earl Nightingale talked about. I just find him funny, his voice and everything when I first started watching him. It's so old, but I
Yeah.
just love his voice and the way he talks. But yeah, that's what he talks about. And Think and Grow Rich, I think that's part of the process too. It's basically think and grow rich. And people don't
Yeah, it
understand the
is.
power of your thoughts. Our
Yeah.
thoughts are so powerful. And see, we're so used to doing, but sometimes if you stop, we think stopping it delays us. Stopping can actually give you a better plan. Am I right,
Yeah.
Terry?
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, when you just stop, when you just that meditation and you can just come one in yourself, a lot of people they have an opportunity to take, they don't want to take risks. They're scared. They don't want to take that next step. But when you become in tune with yourself and you do those meditations, those plans and stuff are already there for you to, when that plan A doesn't work out, okay, I already know what B and C is. So if it doesn't work, I'm good. You know, and a lot of people don't have that B and C, so they're nervous because all they have is that A. So
very good. You'd have to talk about me, Lee, and put my business out there, but that's okay. You're still my friend, Dr. Terry. We still okay. I won't end this broadcast
you
like
know,
this.
I ain't gonna do you like that. Now you know that.
No, but that was good advice. That was very good advice. You have to take risks in life. You have to, because think about it. Jesus took the biggest risk of all. He shrunk himself down to a baby. How open was he to the enemy's attack? A helpless baby in a manger. Satan could have just took him out just like that. He was powerless. He's goo goo gaga, you know, using the bathroom in his diaper. Who humbles theirself like that before their enemy? He took a big risk coming all the way from heaven, all the way down to earth. And so he showed us, when you take a risk, look what happens when you come out your comfort zone, and look what happens when you take a risk, because we're being saved. We're covered by grace now. We have the blood of Jesus. You know, we have angels, Jesus. We have so much power, Holy Spirit in us. All this because Jesus came out of his comfort zone and Jesus took a risk. He showed us a pattern for our life. But a lot of times fear and the enemy is always playing with our mind. Like I have been talking about the imposter syndrome. Are you familiar with that?
Very, very familiar. Matter of fact, one of the guys that I mentored, we were talking about the imposter syndrome. And believe it or not, there's a lot of entertainers, there's a lot of professional people, there's a lot of actors and actresses who suffer from imposter syndrome because they don't feel like this should have happened to them. The
Wow.
success, the level of success that they have. So I talked to my mentee. It's crazy. I just talked to him last week about the imposter syndrome.
I think it needs to be more conversations about that, because it's a lot of front people that struggle with that in private. And I think that's why a lot of stars might do drugs, or they have these issues. And we like, your life is fabulous. Why are you an alcoholic? Why are you on drugs and everything? Because of that imposter syndrome. And I always say it's spiritual. I really believe that is spiritual, because we be trying to find that completion outside of ourselves and our tasks. We do more, when it's really something internal that needs to be healed. But all right, Dr. Terry, I have enjoyed our conversation. So it's time for the show to almost be over with. So usually during this time, I'll give you 2 minutes to say whatever you want to say to close out. And while you do that, I'm going to go on your website. I'm going to share your website so everybody can be looking at your website while you talk, so they can be seeing and hearing. Some people see and learn. Some people, you know, hear and learn. I'm the type of person, I need to touch, feel.
Yeah, you got a kinesthetic learners, you got the audio learners, you got everything. But
There you go. All
but
right, go right ahead.
But Dr. Dodd, once again, I want to thank you for having me on your show. You know, this was exciting, you know, and I know you normally don't have guys on your show. So for you to have a guy such as myself on your show, I'm extremely grateful for it. But I just want to thank everybody who tuned in today. And I want other folks to know that if you do have a young man in your life, even if they're not readers, you need to challenge them to learn how to read or to become a reader, because there's a lot of knowledge in books. And in this book, I have not only myself writing that have written some stuff in here, but I have other gentlemen that's in this book. One of the guys that I have writing this book is actually from the Bahamas, and the other gentleman is from Honduras. And then we have gentlemen from North Carolina, Massachusetts. I talk about one of the guys talk about him being homeless and how he overcame being homeless, you know, to running a Fortune 500 company, you know. So there's a lot of things that are in this book that can motivate not only yourself, but a guy or a young man who's reading this. And it's not just limited to a young man who's 12, 13, or 15. I've had people, and I have men that have read this book that was 70 plus years old, and they say they needed that. That was something that they needed. So it's something in there for everyone. I just want to, like I said, I want to thank you again, and I'm excited about all the things that are happening. If you want to locate me or read me to come out, have me to come out to to do some speaking, I'm definitely available. And you can reach me at terryspainconsulting.com, or you can reach me on Instagram at terryspain21, or you can reach me on IG or LinkedIn. I'm on all social media platforms. So I'm here. Use me. I'm excited about everything, and I thank you again, Dr. Da, for inviting me on your show.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's look at your pictures just a little bit.
So yeah, that's what I was at the Cleveland Guardian Stadium right there. I was speaking on to the crew of the USS Cooperstown and in Cleveland in Cleveland, Ohio. And tomorrow I'm actually going on board the USS Constitution on behalf of the Bob Feller Foundation to talk about our foundation that I'm a board member of. And that's me and President Obama there.
Wow. How did you meet President Obama?
Well, I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. I was in the military, and one of the commands that I was in charge of that for diversity and inclusion was inside the White House. So I used to go to the White House quite often.
Okay. Okay. I saw that. I was quite impressed. And I see this is a speaking engagement.
Yeah, and this
Oh.
was my commentary. This was at the XFL Championship in San Antonio, Texas, this past a few months ago, actually.
Mhm.
That's me
This is
doing my work here on another training. I do a lot of stuff with leadership and diversity, but I also do all things human relations as well.
What about this very important looking picture?
I was doing a podcast, and that's me right there. I planted this tree in Kenya, where I was in Eldoret, Kenya, a few months ago, and that was my first time ever planting a tree, so I can always have roots in Kenya.
Oh, that is amazing. Truly, that's amazing. More people that you done mentored and talked to and changed their life.
Yeah, that was the inroads class that I used to teach. And then this is a leadership when I was a part of the Institute for Federal Leadership Diversity in Washington, D.C.
Okay. All right. So now do y'all believe me when I tell you this man, he's a man of influence? All right. So thank you, Dr. Spain, so much for tonight. So I just want to tell everybody what we learned from Dr. Spain tonight is to write down your goals, write down your vision so that it can be a roadmap to where you're going. And it can also be an inspiration when things don't turn out like you want them to turn out. Don't just have a plan A, also have a plan B. But we know that plan C always work, which is plan Christ. So Christ is going to either go with A, B, or he going to go with his own plan. But we always want to be moving towards something, doing something so God can direct us. If we're just sitting there with our hands folded, God can't use us. So sometimes we wait too long trying to hear from God when God is like, if you just move, like I think about when the children of Israel had left Egypt and they got to the Red Sea and Moses was like, stand still and see the salvation of God. And God was like, look, you got what you need in your hand, move forward. So God is always telling us to keep moving. So Dr. Spain has kept moving in his talents and his gifts and his influence. He is shaping the lives of young men. He's leaving a different legacy for these young men. Some of these young men never had a man of influence to speak life into them, and he's a positive influence. So I commend you for everything that you're doing, how you're impacting the kingdom of God, how you're impacting the world. So I just want to encourage you that you are making a difference for generations. Even when you're gone, your legacy is here in the earth now, and not just here in America, but you are international. So I just want to thank you for being a man of God. I want to thank you for being a role model to these men that's out here, these young men that have been lost. You helping them find themselves. So, all right, everybody, I want to thank you. I want you to reach out to Dr. Terry, connect with him if you need a speaker, whatever you need, and please support him with his book. So once again, Dr. Terry, what's your website?
It is Terry, Terry, Spain, just like the country, like my last name, consulting.com.
All right, y'all. Go to his website, check it out, check out some more of those pictures, his accomplishments, and everything. Thank you. I'll be back next week, Tuesday at 8:30. Your favorite Ruby Girl. And don't forget, this Thursday is Ruby Girl Day. And also September the 30th, I'm having the Ruby Girl experience at my house. If you want to be a part of it and you in Detroit, put in the comment section. I was about to have a tongue twister. Put in a comment section. Let me talk a little proper. Put in the comment section that you would like to be a part of it. I would love for you to come to the Ruby Girl experience. So thank you, Dr. Spain, once again. And for everybody out there on Facebook, have a great and fantastic night. And tune in next week at 8:30. I got another fantastic guest. Have a great night.